I'm Hamish, Joint Managing Director and Chairman of Harvey's Brewery. 25 years ago, we were reflecting on our experience in the Lewes flood. A traumatic experience, I think I'd call it. But it's like all things like this, you don't know they're going to be a traumatic experience in advance. So you don't prepare for this huge event. It's something you remember in retrospect. And I remember we had recently converted the John Harvey Tavern to a pub, and I was over there checking its food and beer operation much as normal, and hearing about flooding upstream and thinking, gosh, it's a very high tide, isn't it? And worth seeing how high it gets. Nobody thought it would breach walls or what have you, certainly not as quickly as it did, and caught a few of us by surprise, I think. We had got half of a brew done that day, which became a rogue beer, and it became Ouse booze. Yeah, I remember evacuating, driving my company car home, and because Uckfield was flooded, we drove via a village nearby which crossed one of the tributaries of the river, and that too was significantly flooded at a little village called Shortbridge near Piltdown, and there was a 50-yard stretch of water to cross. I had a Land Rover. I thought, yes, this should be possible. And not knowing where the road was, driving along there, the water was right up at the wing mirrors, and I thought this was perhaps foolish. I just made it through to the other side, but how I stayed on the road, I really have no idea. The brewery was significantly affected by that flooding, and you learn a lot about your capabilities, you learn a lot about your staff, and I was amazed, frankly, at how resilient we were, considering how much we had to do everywhere, as well as respond. We had the press, we had emergency issues elsewhere. Our casks were floating down the river and into the channel. Somebody had to respond to inquiries about all this sort of thing. So there was a great deal of response necessary. In terms of restoration, it was a question of priorities, really. What was important to do immediately? There was obviously an enormous insurance claim to make, so one rings one's insurers, and that's that dealt with. We recognised that we would need to be brewing quickly, as quickly as possible, and the yeast rooms had flooded, and that was the biggest worry at the time, is that the only viable living yeast we had was on top of the beers in the fermenting room, 6 feet above the flood level. The boiler house had been inundated, and that required an enormous amount of work to get us brewing again. I think we were brewing again within 9 days, which is frankly remarkable when you consider the scene that greeted you. As I say, everything below flood level was coated in a thin layer of disgusting grime and had to be cleaned. One learns lessons as a result of, I think it's fair to call it a disaster recovery like that. Yeah, so it's been useful in retrospect, the experience.